Party Sanko and the youth movement SASCO and COSAS. Comrades, we the over 1,500 delegates from structures of the ANC, together with our alliance partners, the South African Communist Party, Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, and the South African National Civic Organization, SANCO, the Mass Democratic Movement, as well as sister organizations from across the region, gathered for the 5th National General Council in Ekurhuleni, embodiment of our intensified renewal mission. The National General Council, convened under the theme "Restoring the ANC, a more effective instrument of the people to achieve the vision of the Freedom Charter. The people shall govern, the people shall share in the country's wealth." The 5th National General Council took place at a critical moment in the history of our young democracy, with notable progress to build a better life over the 3 decades of freedom, which includes a constitutional order committed to equality, redress, human and socio-economic rights, and a comprehensive social wage, which includes the millions now having access to basic services. At the same time, the legacies of the past still find expression in the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. These challenges have been exacerbated by spatial underdevelopment that remains stubbornly high. These challenges impact negatively on millions of men and women, young and old, across the country. The 5th National General Council also convened as we celebrate 70 years of the Freedom Charter, 40 years since the launch of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, and as we prepare for 30 years of the South African Constitution and the 7th local government elections in 2026. We, the delegates to the 5th National General Council, remain mindful that our movement, and indeed the cause of social transformation, continue to face an existential crisis, which has placed the very cause of national liberation at a crossroads. Consequently, we understand our struggle to be at the fork road, and thus we renew or perish. We can unite or face defeat. We can return to serving the people or betray the National Democratic Revolution. Mindful of this pregnant moment in our history, the plenary and commission sessions lived up to the expectation of our National General Council. And delegates discussed topics from the base document, political overview, midterm report, and various thematic areas. The 5th National General Council delegates displayed utmost discipline and determination to learn, participate, and sharply raise matters of utmost concern to society, communities on the ground, and the ANC membership. The work on the ground through the foundation course and the preparations by the provinces and the leagues towards the National General Council made a positive impact on the quality and depth of debates in the commissions and plenary. The fifth National General Council affirmed the ongoing relevance of the National Democratic Revolution as the shared theory, strategy, and program of the ANC-led alliance and democratic movement. The National General Council reaffirmed the thoroughgoing socio-economic transformation as a fundamental foundation for the South Africa we want and the means of achieving it. The NGC agreed that the strategic objective of the National Democratic Revolution, as articulated in the strategy and tactics document, remain relevant. Attaining these objectives will lead to the fundamental transformation of South Africa into a national democratic society, a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous nation based on the vision of the Freedom Charter. The NGC acknowledged progress of the NDR in the empowerment of the motive forces. These gains can be seen in the significant growth of black professionals and middle strata, and to an extent, black-owned and women-owned businesses in many sectors of the economy, reserved for white males under apartheid. Workers have also made enormous gains in terms of labor rights and the social wage, including the minimum wage. The youth are the primary beneficiaries of massive public investment in the expansion of basic education and higher education. South African women have also made gains regarding the social wage, political representation, and economic empowerment. South Africa occupies the second place in the G20 countries on women empowerment. At the same time, despite progress, the NGC concluded that the NDR stands at a crossroads because of the following: incidents of corruption on the capacity, legitimacy, and authority of the state, tendencies of ideological and organizational degeneration in the ANC and alliance structures, especially the sins of incumbency, factionalism, crass materialism, social distance, and outright service delivery failures. The apartheid colonial political economy remains largely intact. The unequal distribution of economic opportunities between black and white, men and women, urban and rural, and high levels of unemployment and economic exclusion remain a dominant pattern of South Africa's political economy and spatial landscape. The impact of neoliberalism, an ideology and policies that seeks to limit the role of the state in driving a developmental agenda, thus outsourcing and tenderization of state functions, have weakened the democratic state's capacity and orientation to drive development. The National General Council admitted that the cumulative impact and toxic combination of these factors and the deterioration in inequality and unemployment rates, as well as slow progress in reducing poverty, have led to the 2024 electoral setback and the crossroads of the National Democratic Revolution. These factors also contributed to the emboldening of counter-revolutionary forces at both domestic and global levels. The Fifth National General Council therefore declared that for fundamental socio-economic transformation to be advanced and accelerated. Organizational renewal must be sustained and must go hand in glove with national rejuvenation and renewal in the following 4 areas. Firstly, renewal of the ANC as the leading agent of change, to rebuild the leadership, organizational and ideological capacity to drive transformation. This renewal must be all-encompassing and will require strict organizational management of the ANC. The adoption of a renewal charter towards 2032 with performance targets and indicators across a range of issues identified by the NGC, which should include the reconfiguration and the renewal of the Revolutionary Alliance. Secondly, national renewal and rejuvenation must be anchored by an effective developmental path for growth and social equity that reindustrialize the economy for mass employment creation, transform the racialized and gendered patterns of ownership and control, build productive rural areas, advancing land and agrarian reforms, urban centers as drivers of economic growth and innovation, safe communities, quality basic services, climate-smart infrastructure, and a state that is effective, trusted, and ethical. This must include strengthening the local sphere of governance through the local government action plan to accelerate service delivery, infrastructure, development and maintenance, and reconnecting with the people. This will require ward-based monitoring and evaluation systems and deploying the best among us in the 2026 local government elections. Local government is the sphere of government closest to the people, where the injunction of the Freedom Charter that the people shall govern must find most direct expression. This must also be reflected in the demarcation of local government structures. The National General Council directed the NEC to work with communities negatively affected by recent decisions by local government demarcation board to address their concerns. Thirdly, nation building, social cohesion and empowerment of the people to unify society behind the cause of transformation manifested a better life for all. Finally, navigating a complex global situation to protect and advance our national interests and the African agenda amid global shifts. The 5th National General Council, in a range of commissions, reviewed implementation of 55th National Conference resolutions, challenges and new issues, with detailed recommendations on accelerating implementation towards 2027, when the 56th National Conference convenes, and 2032 when the ANC will return 120 years. The 5th National General Council instructs the NEC to immediately translate these recommendations into a renewal and rejuvenation action plan, with marching orders to ANC deployees in executive authorities, public representatives, NEC, PEC and REC members, and above all in the basic unit of the movement, the ANC branches across the length and breadth of the country. The 5th National General Council calls on all ANC leaders, members and supporters to put shoulder to wheel to implement this renewal and rejuvenation action plan. As we take part in the national dialogue, engage with communities, sectors and the alliance, and advance service delivery, economic transformation in the ANC-led GNU, provincial and local governments, and from opposition benches. We approach the 30th anniversary of our Constitution in 2026, following closely on the 75th anniversary of the Freedom Charter. The Constitution is the supreme law of our republic. It is a democratic revolutionary framework that mandates and guides the fundamental transformation of our society into a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous nation. It affirms that the people shall govern, that all shall be equal before the law, and that dignity, work, asset ownership, shelter, and security are not privileges, but rights. For 3 decades, it has anchored democratic governance, built independent institutions, expanded access to justice, and enabled major social advances in housing, education, healthcare, water, electricity, and social protection. It has empowered decisive action to dismantle the legacies of racial, economic, and class oppression. Yet this anniversary takes place at the time of ever more stringent attacks on constitutional values, the rule of law, and rules-based international order, globally and domestically, including a targeted campaign against the continuing process of liberating the majority of South Africans from the legacy of white patriarchal supremacy. The task of the ANC and all progressive patriots, South Africans, is therefore twofold: to defend and deepen constitutional democracy and to ensure it delivers more decisively for the poor and the marginalized. The movement must lead a year-long 30th anniversary program that ignites mass constitutional education, active citizenship, youth mobilization, and cultural programs while confronting corruption, disinformation, and democratic disengagement. The ANC affirms for all our country and the world to know that the Constitution is the people's covenant, a powerful instrument of renewal, justice, and shared prosperity. The 5th National General Council rises with the ANC and the broader progressive movement re-energized, inspired, and determined to translate the commitments and resolutions into practical action, not only to inform the actions of our members and supporters, but also to impact on the lives of South Africans in practical ways. In this regard, we solemnly reaffirm the profound commitment enshrined in the Freedom Charter. These freedoms we will fight for side by side throughout our lives until we have won our liberty. Thank you very much.
That is the declaration of the NGC. Is there any formal mover? Yes, Gauteng. Yes.
Thanks, Chair. My name is Panyaza Lisufi. I'm the co-convener of the ANC. Gauteng, we second the declaration. Thank you so much, Chair.
You move. Any seconder? Any say? The one is a press orange. Limpopo. Obete mkwati. Beta ngowako mkwati.
Thank you very much, National Chair. We rise here as Limpopo to second the move by Gauteng that we adopt this declaration.
Any counter? Thank you very much. Declaration is adopted by NGC. The President is requested. Man, can you tell no part of man? If not, if we part one day, Masanza Landoge. Mascalo President, as Nike, concluding remarks, as a closing remarks. Is concluding remarks. Ningatulak.
Amandla! Amandla! National Chairperson, Comrade Gwede Samson Mantashe. Comrade Deputy President, Comrade Paul Shipokoche Mashatile, Comrade Secretary General, Comrade First Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Second Deputy Secretary General, and Comrade Treasurer General, members of the National Executive Committee, former President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President and Secretary General, Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe, the leadership of the ANC Veterans League, the Women's League, the Youth League, and representatives of the MK Liberation War veterans, the leadership of SASCO, the leadership of COSAS, representatives of the Alliance and the Democratic Movement, members of fraternal organizations, comrades delegates, and all comrades present here. We have, comrades, come to the end of the 5th National General Council of the African National Congress. Now, in the finest traditions of our movement, this NGC has been an opportunity for umkhabulo, an opportunity for thorough political debates. Most importantly, it has been an opportunity to outline a clear path ahead to give effect to the decisions of the 55th National Conference and to advance the historic mission of our movement. In the commissions that I attended, I was impressed to hear how delegates had come to this NGC so well prepared. I was most impressed as I listened to hear them put forward inputs that are grounded on deep knowledge of experience, but also research. The delegates reminded us that the ANC must always be led by evidence, by principle and the real needs of our people, and not by slogans or popularity or convenience. When we engage from a researched and a knowledge point of view, as many delegates did in this NGC, our policy becomes realistic, implementable, and focused on impact. In fact, where I sat in some of the commissions, comrades kept coming through to whisper in my ear and trying to demonstrate their deep knowledge about a variety of issues that were being discussed, to a point at times where I said, I can't listen to both, those who are talking on the platform and those who are whispering to me. But interestingly, those who were whispering to me would come with their iPads, with documents, to demonstrate to me how they had researched a number of issues that were being debated. To me, that was a highlight of how comrades came here so thoroughly prepared. The high level of debate was underpinned by the culture which I recognized of reading, analysis, but listening and also thinking. This thoroughgoing preparation by delegates is indicative of a resurgent ANC. It shows real commitment to the renewal of the ANC, and we saw it leading up to the NGC, how debates and discussions took place in our branches, in our RGCs, and in our PGCs. Comrades, what you did ahead of coming to this NGC was most impressive. It was ANC style. Now, the movement must continue to build on these green shoots of renewal. When we read, when we research, when we analyze and think, we decide better. And when we decide better, our people live better. Throughout the NGC, the commissions were packed to capacity, and delegates sat through the commissions. It was not some behavior that we've seen in the past where people would come into the commissions and leave. You stayed in the commissions, and we say thank you for that. And you debated in a calm and comradely atmosphere. The delegation breakdown between men and women and young and old shows great improvement in our movement. Women and young people are participating in great and impressive numbers. Now, I saw that delegates remained focused on the tasks at hand. And even here in plenary, there have been times when we've held conferences where you would see a lot of open spaces in plenary sessions. And I've been observing that many of us have remained seated in our seats and listening to the reports and engaging. And that shows great improvement in the African National Congress. And more importantly, that shows that delegates refuse to be distracted by issues outside of the purpose of the NGC. There was quite a lot of noise as we were coming to this NGC, and some of it obviously being fanned by our friends in the media and who were hoping that this NGC would turn into something very ugly. And I saw that some of them kept looking at loose chairs, thinking that some chairs would fly. I'm sorry that you were disappointed, those who were expecting that. So as a result, comrades, we leave this NGC with agreement on the actions that we need to take to make the African National Congress a more effective instrument of our people to achieve the vision of the Freedom Charter. This midterm evaluation, which this NGC is, has been characterized by honest and critical reflections. We evaluated the work being done by the ANC in communities, in government, and our historic role in fundamental social and economic transformation of South African society. Reflecting on the mood of the delegates present here over the past 4 days, we can say without a shadow of doubt that you, our delegates, came here to genuinely renew and to rebuild our movement. And we thank you for that. So your presence here was not like ticking the box and just to come and show your pretty and handsome faces. You came here to engage with one another and to ensure that the views that had been expressed by members in your branches were uplifted to this level. Throughout the discussions and debates, there was an emphasis on the urgency of implementing our policies and decisions. We can summarize the central message of this NGC as disciplined implementation is the number one priority that the ANC must focus on. We agreed that we must rid our movement and indeed our government of this disease of not implementing decisions that have been taken. And there must therefore be a step change from now going forward. We must inculcate in our culture of work the ability to take decisions and immediately work on a time frame of when those decisions will be implemented as a matter of must. That is what we should do. We agreed that since the 1994 democratic breakthrough, a lot has been done in changing South Africa's political and legal landscape. We have a transformative constitution, a progressive Bill of Rights, and democratic institutions that safeguard the rights and freedoms of our people and ensure that government is based on the democratic will of the people of South Africa. Successive ANC-led administrations have quantitatively improved the lives of millions of South Africans and expanded access to a variety of basic services and infrastructure. They have expanded access to housing, to healthcare, education, electricity, water, sanitation, and a social security net to those who need state support. We have witnessed a significant growth of the black middle class, the black professionals, black-owned and women-owned businesses in many sectors of the economy. That is success that we have been able to bring about to this country. The NGC supported the decision to form an inclusive ANC-led government of national unity as a tactical intervention that doesn't change the ANC's long-term strategy for fundamental transformation. While supporting the NEC intervention fully and decision fully, the NGC correctly noted that some parties that have been using the GNU to try to undermine the transformation of our country as mandated by our Constitution, the Supreme Court of our land, should not succeed to stop the transformation process. Accordingly, the NEC has been mandated to strengthen the ANC's capacity to drive progressive policies in the GNU and to ensure delivery of immediate results on jobs, inclusive growth, tackling poverty, inequality, and fighting crime and corruption. The NEC, as mandated by this NGC, should continue to monitor and assess the performance of the GNU and make the necessary interventions to ensure that the GNU serves the interests of the people of South Africa. The subjective organizational weaknesses of the ANC and the alliance and the increasingly difficult objective economic conditions of the motive forces require a combination of both organizational renewal as well as the national renewal of our country. We must therefore renew and rebuild and continue to rebuild both the ANC and the alliance with a specific focus on inclusive economic growth and the safety and security of the citizens of our country. We salute the 125,000 members of the African National Congress from 1,600 branches who have already completed the foundation course. Now, our aim as we launch the foundation course, our aim is to ensure that every ANC member and every ANC leader understands the core principles, the values, and the policies of our movement. This will lay the basis for vibrant and revived and renewed branches and upgrade the quality of our comrades. We also take heart from the substantial progress we have made in developing our new membership system and the many branches and members who now have access to this important mechanism that confirms their identity as members of the ANC, so as to ensure an effective membership system. Vibrant ANC branches with consistent community outreach programs serving our people are the foundation of a renewed ANC. Our process of branch functionality audits will ensure that we are monitoring the rebuilding of our structures and sharing good practice throughout the organization. And we should be able to have peer sharing of the practices that we get involved in. I had time to speak to 2 secretaries of our provinces, and I found that there are many things that they do that are unique to them, that are helping to renew our organization. But what they are doing is so smart, but it's not commonly practiced. And so therefore, I'm going to be urging the SG that there should be a peer sharing of information. Those provinces that do well in certain areas should be able to share with those other provinces so that all of us must rise to good functionality at the same time. Now, every branch must conduct an audit of ward-based challenges and issues which will in turn inform the branch's program of action to focus on the resolution of local issues that affect our people. No ANC branch can claim to lead a community that is not rooted when itself and its leadership are not rooted in the daily struggles of the community that that branch exists in to give our people a better life. That is so important. It is the ANC that must have an ever-presence in our communities. When communities are going through challenges of whatever nature, they must be able to call on the ANC to come to their assistance. They must be able to know that the ANC leaders in the area are the ones who can help to provide solutions, be it with the local municipality, be it with any institution that should serve our people. Our people's first call in dealing with their challenges must be the African National Congress at all times. Now, rebuilding a culture of integrity and ethics is central to our renewal process as an organization. And in this regard, we want to salute the important work of the ANC Integrity Commission on guiding our approach to these difficult matters. And these, yes, are difficult matters that we have had to be dealing with over time. And the processes and the interventions are maturing, are getting better all the time. We note that the step-aside decision is now being implemented with greater consistency across our structures. Those members who are stepping aside voluntarily, while the matters that could bring the ANC into disrepute are being processed, are to be applauded because a number of them have come forward. And in honoring the integrity of the ANC, they are the ones who themselves say, I would like to step aside. The issues that impact on the integrity of the ANC are being taken to heart by the membership. And this is to be welcomed because this is an area where we are seeing progress on a progressive basis. This NGC has raised deep concern about the negative impact of the current state of the alliance on the ability of the progressive forces to execute a revolutionary agenda to defend and advance the NDR. Accordingly, this NGC has supported the NEC's assessment that the South African Communist Party's resolution to have SACP candidates being fielded in the 2026 local government election does not or will not only have tactical implications, but will also have strategic implications for the alliance as a whole and the prosecution of the NDR. It has been agreed that the alliance leadership must meet urgently to develop a common approach to the reconfiguration and renewal of the alliance in a manner that safeguards unity and cohesion and avoids further confusion, division, and conflict among the rank and file on the ground. And I know that this is sounding like a broken record, but we should, in a painstaking way, continue to engage. And this is what this NGC has said. The ANC, as the leader of the alliance and the NDR, should not give up on its historic responsibility and effort to unite the alliance, including continuing to engage with the SACP to ensure that we approach the elections in the way that we have always done in the past, as a common platform. However, as we continue to persuade each other, and the important and word that we should underline is as we continue to persuade each other, we will need to request SACP members who've been participating in our joint election structures to recuse themselves. Yabona ke niyayithanda ke le. All we are saying is that as we continue to engage, particularly on our strategies and tactics for running the elections, they should recuse themselves. And may I add that a number of them themselves feel that they will be conflicted, and they are recusing themselves until we solve this problem. And I have confidence that we will solve it. On economic transformation, the NGC observed that the country has made significant progress. I will wait until Mameli. Now, on economic transformation, the NGC, meaning yourselves as delegates, observed that the country has made significant progress in addressing the network industry infrastructure, particularly the shortcomings thereof, with an emphasis on stabilizing energy supply, which has enabled us to bring an end to load shedding and to focus on grid expansion. You will remember that we need to install a further 14,000 kilometers of the grid to ensure that our energy supply is stable. We are also seeing an improvement in the tonnage of goods that are transported on our rail network and are being exported or imported through our ports. We are seeing greater efficiencies and rising productivity in our network industries. The NGC noted that economic growth and employment performance are beginning to show positive trends, but remain significantly lower than the required levels that will enable us to bring down the levels of unemployment. The ANC must focus its attention towards working to achieve a 3% growth rate in the medium term. The NGC has reaffirmed the focus and priority areas of the 10-point plan as the guiding framework for economic implementation and action to improve growth and employment rates. The 10-point plan is already demonstrating effectiveness in streamlining implementation of our conference resolutions and manifesto priorities in measurable and time-bound areas. And in this regard, the NGC welcomed the progress made on energy security, as well as interventions on electricity tariffs in the ferrochrome sector just a few days ago, as well as port and rail network transformation. There are other sectors that also need attention, particularly the steel sector, which is facing challenges, as well as the auto sector. And our comrades deployed in government, in those economic ministries, will be paying and giving attention to this. The NGC stressed the importance of enabling private sector investment in national infrastructure revitalization programs through a variety of mechanisms. And this would be funding mechanisms, while maintaining effective and strategic asset ownership and regulatory control as the state. The NGC reaffirmed the importance of a social compact that enjoins government, labor, civil society, and business around a coherent national investment strategy to increase the momentum of growth and development in our country. The NGCs emphasized the importance of Cabinet developing a coherent, transformative investment philosophy to guide public investment activities across all levels of government. And this is to take into account the fact that, from a fiscal point of view, our challenges are quite immense. But at the same time, it does not mean there are no financial resources in our country which can be better utilized. And this is where Cabinet will need to come with a clear investment philosophy that will get all parties working together more effectively to harness and to crowd in the various financial resources in our country so that our gross fixed capital investment in things like infrastructure can improve. The NGC places emphasis on strengthening the project and contract management capability of government to execute projects in line with public interest priorities, acknowledging the challenges confronting small enterprises in our townships and rural areas. The NGC mandates government to ensure access to finance and appropriate skills training to small and medium enterprises, because it is through small and medium enterprises that we can turbocharge the growth of our economy to higher levels. But they need skills and finance, and our deployed comrades are mandated by this NGC to focus on that area. Recognizing that there remains a challenge in the skills ecosystem, the NGC has mandated government to institute a review of the SETA system in relation to industry requirements. The NGC agreed that we must proceed to implement the dual skills acquisition system to foster a skills revolution. Now, the NGC appreciates the progress that has been made in enabling access to education from a foundational education level right through to tertiary education level, and recognizes that we need to introduce improvements. And SASCO has said that they have a proposal on how we can reform our education system, and they want to come with a number of proposals. We've agreed that those will be presented to the policy conference and debated thoroughly. But in the intervening period, we will want to hear the young people in terms of what their proposals are. Now, the NGC reaffirms its commitment to a broad-based structural transformation and all socio-economic redress policies, which means the NGC reiterates the ANC's position on broad-based black economic empowerment, that we cannot retreat on that. and mandates government to ensure that as we strengthen those entities and companies that have been previously excluded from playing a key role in our economy, we should enable them to participate in local content development. And also we must give them more support in the reindustrialization of our economy, in the manufacturing sector, as well as in other areas like the steel and other sectors as well. On local government, the NGC noted that local government remains the level of government closest to the daily lives of our people. Accordingly, the role of local government in both socio and economic transformation is central to the development agenda of our country. Accordingly, the NGC has affirmed today that municipal administration must be ethical, must be capable, and that professional administration is insulated from undue political interference. And I repeat, political interference when it comes to the running of local government, political interference in things like procurement and what have you. The NGC has agreed that as the process of the review of the white paper on local government unfolds, our structures must ensure that the new document meets all the objectives of the developmental local government. We are reaffirmed the important role of traditional and Khoisan leadership, the role that they should play in local government to ensure joint planning between municipalities and traditional councils. The NGC mandated government to ensure that the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development and the Institution of Traditional and Khoisan Leadership must resolve outstanding land reform matters. Once again, we affirm that the district development model is the primary mechanism for integrated planning, budgeting, and accountable service delivery across all spheres of government. So our slogan must be one plan, one budget, one approach. That's how we should approach our development. In less than a year, we will contest the 2026 local government elections. This will be an important test of the extent to which we have managed to renew the support and confidence of our people. To win decisively, the ANC must field our most dedicated, honest, and competent candidates. That is an important. We must also work tirelessly in voting districts, going door to door to explain why the ANC remains the only party that can meet the needs of all our country's people. And I want to emphasize, comrades, that the door-to-door process does work. From 1994 and throughout the various elections, we were able to acquire high levels of support because we focused on door-to-door. And we focused on our street sheets to report the extent to which our comrades, our leaders, our volunteers were able to reach all our voters. Somehow, we got to a point of even knowing how each household would vote. And we would say, here we're going to go get 5 votes, and this household will get 2. The others may go to another party, but we knew our network was rich, it was good, it was effective. We need to go back to that way of working. We focused discussions on peace and stability, and NGC said that it is concerned that crime and corruption remain a central concern of all our communities. The Madlanga Commission will assist us to establish facts and help us to reset the South African Police Service and the criminal justice system over the next decade and many years to come. The classification of gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster signals a firm commitment to tackle this societal scourge through an all-of-government and all-of-society approach. The recent adoption of an integrated strategy to deal with gang violence in the Western Cape and Gauteng, together with the allocation of substantial financial resources, must ensure that we stamp out the endless cycle of killings and violence that continues to terrorize communities and devastate families every day. The resolutions of this NGC explicitly recognize the porous borders of our country as a threat to territorial integrity and link them to illegal mining, terrorism, narcotics, trafficking, and transnational organized crime. While the Border Management Authority has been established and initial deployments have begun, financial constraints remain a critical enforcement limitation. Accordingly, the NGC mandates government to look at ways to strengthen the Border Management Authority so that it increases its capability and effectiveness. It is a matter of urgency that we move with speed to update our legislative environment to deal with the new realities in our migration environment. Universal health coverage is a key aspiration of the Freedom Charter. The NGC has agreed that we must proceed with the implementation of the NHI and strengthen all aspects of our health system towards the achievement of affordable, equal, quality health for our people. Delegates welcomed the classification, yes, as I said, of gender-based violence as a disaster, and also highlighted poor police response, secondary victimization, and long case backlogs as amongst the factors exacerbating gender-based violence and femicide in our society. They called on government to address these challenges as measures that need to be taken on an all-of-government strategy to deal with this disaster. The NGC agreed that the harmful practice of ukutwala, the forced marriage of young girls, must be condemned without any form of ambiguity. There was agreement that the movement must urge its deployees in the state to strengthen and fast-track legislative and other measures aimed at enhancing the implementation of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Now, with regard to this, delegates emphasized the mandatory training for the South African Police Service officers on the National Strategic Plan in particular, and those in the criminal justice system must take care and be trained to prevent further harm to survivors and to victims. The NGC stressed that the ANC should continue to work for a better Africa and a better world. The ANC should continue to revive and strengthen its ties with sister liberation movements and progressive parties across the world, including the anti-apartheid movement, and share lessons and experiences on successful party renewal. And here I must compliment comrades who are deployed in our International Relations Subcommittee for the real excellent work they do, particularly in interfacing with former liberation movement parties and other progressive parties on our continent, up to and including being invited through the O.R. Tambo School of Leadership to go and help to strengthen some of those parties in various countries. So, Comrade DSG, Comrade DSG Mukonyani, and Comrade David Makura, we thank you and applaud you. It isn't often in the ANC. It isn't often in our movement to give real good applause to those who are doing good work. I do, and I will, because they are doing good work. We must continue to mobilize international solidarity campaigns with and for the people of Palestine, Western Sahara, and Cuba. South Africa must continue to diversify economic ties and strengthen trade relations with countries in our own continent, the Middle East, Asia, with Europe.